Hi, my little butterflies, and welcome back to The Broken Mirror: The Last Shard. If you haven't watched/listened to Chapter 1, please go and do that now. This chapter is written by me, the art was done by Lazy, and for the voice actors, I'll be playing the narrator, Adrien/Noir, and Plagg.
Hi, I'm Lazy, and I'll be playing Marinette/Ladybug, Tikki, Nadja, Chamack, and Emilie.
Hi, I'm January, and I'll be playing Gabriel, Nathalie, the agent, and Nino.
In case y'all didn't know, we have TikTok and Instagram. I've been trying to post more on there regularly so you guys will know what's going on with everything. So if you haven't followed our accounts, our username is miraculously_.amazing on both platforms. And we want to thank you all so much for all the love that Chapter 1 received. It means so much. Also, trigger warning for this chapter, it does include slight substance abuse and death. Anyway, on with the show. Chapter 2. Behind closed doors.
Have a good day at school, Adrien.
That was the last thing Adrien's father had said to him. Nothing else. No, I love you. No, I'm proud of you. Nothing. But Adrien didn't know it yet. It had only been a few days after the battle on the Eiffel Tower, and things were rough to say the least. There was a whole week of drama, the physical deterioration from the battle, and the 3 disappearances. It was unsettling, but most of all, it hurt watching Marinette lose Alia. Things couldn't be any worse. At least that's what he thought. Noir and Ladybug had spent the past 3 days searching for clues, anything that would lead them one step closer. But nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was as if they disappeared off the face of the earth. School was even worse. It was impossible not to intervene more than he already had when it came to Marinette. All of the drama released only added salt to the wound. The only good thing about it was being close to Marinette during the day. But even then he would see her face, slightly puffy eyes and a slight frown, and think about holding her. In only 3 days, he had seen her fall apart. There wasn't anything he could really do as Adrien besides watch. She didn't know that he knew, so what was he meant to say? Hey Mari, I'm so sorry that you watched your best friend die and you weren't able to save her. Yeah, no, that's not happening. So he simply just watched to make sure she was okay. With everything going on, he didn't notice his father's absence. Not when he had breakfast or lunch or dinner. All of his thoughts were consumed with 2 things: Marinette and the organization. Every day when he was done with school, he would go up to his room and busy himself with random activities. Homework was the most common one, which he didn't complain about. Considering that his life used to be just being cooped up in his house, homework meant he was slightly free. Adrien would never forget how his whole life he was homeschooled. Every time he hated school or homework, he thought back to the time when it was only homework and no socialization. He thought back to when he had no friends, no Plagg, no Chat Noir. That would make him feel more grateful in a heartbeat. Adrien was smart. He was ahead of everyone in his grade, though he didn't show it. Back when he was homeschooled, the only thing he had besides school was photo shoots, fencing, piano, and Chinese. Eventually, there's only so much TV one can watch. It was just after school on a Thursday in February. Adrien was working on homework for Miss Mendeley. He was awaiting a call from Marinette when she got home. As he worked, he thought about his time being homeschooled. Everything was so different back then. In some sense, he was happier back then. Not from being homeschooled, but because his mother was there to soften the blow of being alone. He smiled as he thought about a memory. He was 13 years old, just slightly younger than he was now. He was sitting at the dining table with books spread out across it. Nathalie, can you help me with this? I don't understand it. 13-year-old Adrien had asked his father's assistant.
Adrien, you've done your schooling for the day. We can solve this when we next do science.
Nathalie replied. I'm so bored. I'd rather learn something than do nothing in my room until my photo shoot. Adrien whined. Nathalie looked to the young boy.
What do you need help with?
There's this chemistry problem that I'm trying to understand.
Adrien, chemistry is something that I will teach you when you're older.
Nathalie replied. Yeah, I know, but I was bored and I wanted to get a head start.
I haven't even prepared to teach you chemistry yet.
Nathalie replied.
It's all right, Nathalie.
Adrien turned around to see his mom.
I can help him.
Adrien smiled. Hi, Mom.
Hi, baby. Come on, let's figure out this chemistry together.
Adrien sat at his desk, working on his homework for Miss Mendeleyev's class, the answers coming to him easily, remembering his study sessions with his mom. While Adrien worked on his homework, Plagg decided what to watch on TV. Plagg skipped through every single channel possible, the audio playing for max 3 seconds where the next channel was playing.
In theaters now.
The new big thing.
Gabriel aggressed.
The next channel started playing when Adrien's head perked up. Wait, Plagg, go back. Plagg clicked the channel switch button again and went back to the previous channel.
Famous fashion designer and owner of the Aggressive brand has not been seen for many days. Some critics are angry about him not attending the biggest fashion event this month. On top of that, his son, Adrien Agreste, hasn't been seen working on any new photo shoots recently. There's been no news on if or when Mr. Agreste plans to release anything new in the near future, but with how media restricted his family has been, can we expect something soon?
Nadja Chamack concluded on the TV. Adrien stared at the TV in confusion. Where was his dad? Adrien thought about the past few days. There was school, searching for clues, homework, not any photo shoots, and somehow he didn't notice his father's absence. On one side, Adrien didn't expect anything different. After all, that was how it always was with Gabriel Agreste. Minimal conversation, even with his own son. He just didn't expect that he wouldn't even hear anything from his father. It'd been, 3 days? This was the first he was hearing about his father. Not even Nathalie had said anything. Was it just supposed to fly over his head? Did his father not care about it enough to even say goodbye? Plagg looked to Adrien, who was staring at the TV dumbfoundedly. Before Plagg could say anything, Adrien stood up and walked out of his room. He pushed open the door to Gabriel's office and looked around. "Nathalie, where's my dad? I'd like to speak with him," Adrien demanded. Nadja looked up from the computer.
Your father is on a work trip. He'll be unattainable for an unforeseeable amount of time.
Adrien nodded again. "What kind of work trip?" Adrien asked. Nathalie looked back to her computer.
The typical work trip.
Adrien bit his lip. "Why didn't you tell me this before? I found out because there was a news report talking about his disappearance. Why am I the last person to know about my father?" He sharply exhaled and walked up the stairs.
Adrien!
Nathalie started but was cut off by Adrien slamming the door. Once in his room, Adrien sat on his couch, his head in his hands. My father can't even tell me himself that he's leaving. His only son, his only family, and he can't even tell me that I'm not going to see or talk to him for I don't even know how long. Plagg sighed.
Well, you haven't really talked to your dad in general, so why does it matter so much that you're not going to be talking to him now?
Plagg asked. Adrien groaned. I don't know. I usually wouldn't care. This isn't the first time he's done this. He's gone on work trips without warning me before. There is so much more going on. Plagg flew over to his cheese cabinet.
God, you humans have so many emotions. Why can't you just have one thing to struggle with and not 100 million?
Plagg asked. Adrien sighed at him. Thanks for being so empathetic, Plagg, Adrien said sarcastically. Plagg flew up to Adrien's face.
Okay, no. Tell me what's actually bothering you, because you are never this mean to me about your father.
Adrien stared at him. I don't know. Why do you want to know? You never want to talk about emotions because it makes your cheese taste bad. Plagg groaned.
Because your bad aura is making the cheese taste bad anyway, so if you just...
He fanned himself as if brushing himself off. Then it'll make my cheese taste better, so win-win. So... He gestured for Adrien to continue. Adrien shook his head. I don't know what to do. I can't talk to Mari about it because she can't know who I am, and she already has so much that she has to deal with herself. I don't want to burden her with more stuff, especially if it could lead to her finding out who I am. Plagg nodded along.
You're in a tough situation, my friend, and I empathize with you.
Adrien glared at him.
But you need to prioritize yourself. I get that Marinette needs support, but you do too.
Adrien groaned and put his head in his hands. I don't understand. He lifted his head. Why did my dad leave? He had no business meetings that I knew of, and he also hasn't given Nathalie any instructions. He usually has everything planned out for me when he leaves. Plagg shrugged.
I don't know, kid.
Adrien looked up at the Kwame and stood up. Peek your head into my father's office. Is Nathalie at her desk? He asked his Kwame. Plagg groaned. Why do you make me move after I've gotten comfortable? He flew out of the room, disappearing for about a minute before returning. Yeah, she's sitting there. I need you to do something that will get her away from her desk so I can get into my father's office. Plagg glared at the human. I hate you. I'll get you more cheat. Before he could finish his sentence, the little black flying orb phased through the door. Adrien stood up and walked towards the door. He slightly cracked it so that he could listen to what was going on. He then heard clinging pots and pans.
Hello, is anyone there?
Adrien heard Nathalie say. The silence was interrupted by a metallic whir of pots and pans falling to the floor.
What the hell?
Adrien heard Nathalie say, followed by the scraping of a chair on the floor. Adrien peeked his head out of the door to see Nathalie walking into the kitchen. The second she was out of sight, he darted down the stairs to the office door. He quietly opened the door and slipped inside. A few seconds later, Plagg faced through the door.
That was fun.
Plagg giggled. Adrien smiled slightly and then pushed off the door further into the office. He looked around. It was still in its usual pristine condition. The floor was shiny, the screen had not a fingerprint in sight, it was perfectly normal. Adrien walked closer to the pedestal with the screen that his father usually stood at. Plagg, can you touch it? I don't want to leave a fingerprint. Plagg flew over and tapped the screen. It then turned on, illuminating them in a slight glow. But to Adrien's disappointment, it was locked. Shit. Adrien looked around the room, searching for anything that was out of place. A simple hair, anything, but he couldn't. He sighed and turned to Plagg, giving him a knowing look.
Yeah,
Plagg said, before phasing through the wall. Adrien waited patiently until he heard a loud noise before peeking his head out the door. Once he saw that Nathalie wasn't there, he ran up the stairs and back into his room. Plagg was already sitting on his bed, waiting by the time he walked in.
So why did you make me do that?
I thought that... It doesn't matter. Adrien stared at the wall, thoughts running through his head. He was going to think about this for a second more, he might explode. There's only one person who could distract him. I need to check on Mari. Adrien said it, then transformed. He jumped out of his window and across the buildings to his lover's house. He landed on her balcony and looked down the hatch. He opened it slightly and stepped down onto her bed. He put away his other thoughts and grinned. Hi, princess, Noir said while hopping down from the bed.
Hey, Shat,
Marinette said, still looking at her computer. Shat looked at Tikki and smiled, in which she smiled back. What you doing? Shat asked.
I was doing some homework, but I was gonna, take a break.
She said as she took a sip from her water bottle. He nodded. All right, love. He walked up to her and hugged her from behind. Are you okay? She nodded.
Just like stressed.
She said, emotion vacant from her voice. He pulled her up and walked towards the hatch leading to the lower part of the house. I'm gonna make us a snack and we're gonna watch a movie, okay? She smiled slightly.
Okay, just give me a minute,
she said. He smiled and nodded. Meet me on the couch. She hummed. Shat stood in the kitchen, popping some popcorn when she came down with a blanket and her water bottle. What do you want to watch? He asked, bringing the bowl of popcorn to the couch. She shrugged.
I don't care.
He grabbed the remote and started shuffling through movies. Hey, what about? He turned to the side to see her slumped against his shoulder, out cold. He smiled, setting the popcorn down on the floor in front of him. He lifted her up carefully and started walking back towards her room. He laid her on the chaise softly, making sure she didn't wake up. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. Sleep well, princess. The next few days were hard. Everyone was asking Adrien about his father, to which he had no response, which actually resulted in more questions. No, I don't know what he's planning. He kind of just left, Adrien explained to some eager classmates. Everyone started to leave that topic behind after a few days of the news of Gabriel being released. The bigger topic was Marinette.
No, I didn't homewreck Ladybug and Chat Noir's relationship,
Marinette said to a few of their classmates, her voice monotone as if her answer had already been prepared. If you didn't know better, you would think it didn't bother her. But Adrien knew her. It bothered her. So much.
Do you really think she homewrecked Chat Noir and Ladybug's relationship?
Nino said to Adrien. Adrien turned to him. No, I don't think she did. She's not like that. Nino shrugged.
Sure, I guess.
Adrien nodded but then turned back to him. Also, how have you been, man? I haven't talked to you. Nino shrugged.
Ollie has been ditching my calls and she hasn't showed up to class, so that's confusing, but other than that, pretty chill, man.
Adrien nodded. Yeah, maybe she's just busy with something, Adrien said, trying to keep his voice neutral. Fuck, Adrien thought.
Yeah, I just hope she calls me soon. She missed so much in the past few days, and if she's gone any longer, I'm gonna stop taking notes for her.
Nino said jokingly. Adrien nodded and bit his lip. There was so much he didn't know, so much that might hurt him if he knew. So Adrien kept his head down and tried to be normal, like the world wasn't in the hands of him and Marinette. For the most part, he didn't start unraveling until he reached Marinette's house after school.
I can't understand this.
Marinette yelled. Then take a break, Mari. You've been studying for hours. Noir replied.
No, I promised my parents I'd raise my grades, so I'm going to do that.
She groaned before trying to focus back on her homework. I know, but they aren't going to be back tomorrow. You're allowed to take a break, Shat said in a calming voice.
No, I can't, Shat. I can't do that. I can't procrastinate because if I don't raise my grades, then they expect an explanation, and I can't do that.
She yelled.
How am I going to explain my relationship with you? The pictures running off all the time, lie to them more, tell the truth? Both would end up with things getting worse.
Shat stared at her, analyzing to see how he could help her. She's going through a lot. She needs me, he told himself. Don't do this to yourself, Mari. You're going through enough as is. He tried to comfort her.
Do what? My job? It's my job to overthink everything because if I don't, then someone always gets hurt.
Mari lashed out. Shat was taken aback by her lash out, so he just nodded. I understand that, Mari.
No, you don't, Shat. I'm sorry, but you really don't.
She whispered before standing up and walking towards her desk. Shat watched as she busied herself with something random, her mind and body trying to distract herself from everything that was going on. He didn't know what else to do, so he walked up to her and kissed her cheek. I love you, okay? I'm always going to be here for you. He whispered in her ear before jumping up to her bed and leaving through the hatch. He whipped across the sky of Paris, looking around at the beautiful city that was just in shambles a couple of days ago. The city that was under so much stress but was remedied by a couple of teenagers. Teenagers that had enough going on in their personal lives. Shat landed back in his room and recalled his transformation. Adrien appeared and sat down on his bed. You okay, kid? Plagg asked. What do you think, Plagg? Adrien snapped. Plagg flew backwards slightly. Jesus, no need to be so rude. Adrien hesitated. She needs me, Plagg, he mumbled. Yeah, but you need yourself too, Plagg said. She lost her best friend, and maybe her great uncle too, and she can't even say goodbye. Yeah, and you lost your dad, Plagg defended. Adrien stayed silent for a second. Yeah, but she can't know that, so I need to be there for her as Chat Noir. And what about you as Adrien? Who's there for you? Plagg asked with concern. Myself, Plagg. At least for now. But for now lasted longer than expected. Weeks passed and there was no progress with anything. There was no word on Alia and Lila, and more importantly to Adrien, his dad. As time went on, Nino became more and more discouraged. After a few weeks, Nino's messages stopped sending. He still texted her every single day, hoping that just one message would go through. Hey dude, how are you doing? Adrien asked his best friend. Nino looked up from his phone.
What?
Adrien gave him a sad smile. Any word? Nino shrugged.
No, I called her home number and nothing.
Adrien was slowly breaking, his patience wearing thin, even with the simplest things. He was irritable. He couldn't do anything without giving at least a little attitude. Even more, he was losing hope. His dad had been gone for a month without a word. He usually would have at least one prospect to show for it, but there had been nothing. No, not one interview, not one photo shoot, not one call to his own son. Nothing. Like any other day, Adrien was splayed across his bed, throwing a rubber ball into the air and catching it repeatedly. Usually he might be doing an arranged activity like fencing or a photo shoot, but he hadn't done any of that. He was so unoccupied he felt bored. What's got you in such a mood? Plagg asked. Adrien threw the ball into the air again. He sighed. I miss my dad. Plagg paused midair. I'm sorry. What? Plagg asked. I can't shake the thought that something happened to him. He usually never just up and leaves without leaving me with stuff to do. Adrien complained. Okay, wait. Let me just get this straight. You're complaining about getting to do nothing all day? Plagg asked. Adrien hesitated. Well, I wouldn't put it like that, Adrien said. We've checked your father's office. There was nothing out of place, Plagg said. I know, but I just can't shake it, Adrien said, catching the ball and setting up. He stared at the floor, debating what he should do. He eventually stood up and walked downstairs into his father's office. Hey, Nathalie, I was wondering if you'd heard anything from my father, Adrien asked his guardian. Nathalie didn't look up from her computer.
No, Adrien, I haven't, but I'll let you know when I do.
Adrien nodded inside. Okay. Defeated, he turned around. Just as he opened the door, he opened his mouth again. Oh, and by the way, I saw a rat in the kitchen earlier, he said casually. Nathalie looked up.
What? Why are you telling me this now? When did this happen?
She asked while standing up from her desk. Adrien shrugged. I don't know, like maybe this morning or yesterday. She groaned in frustration.
Jesus, Adrien.
She said while running towards the kitchen. Once she was out of sight, Adrien locked the door to his father's office. It was in the exact same shape as when he was last here a few weeks ago. He walked over to the pedestal once again. Plagg, he whispered, looking down towards his shirt, which he knew Plagg flew into earlier.
Huh.
The calling responded. I want you to try a pin for me, okay? Adrien asked. Plagg groaned and flew up to the screen, tapping as soon as it turned on.
What do you want me to try?
Adrien turned around to look at the painting of his mom, then turned back to Plagg. 0627, Adrien said. Plagg used his fingerprint-free paws to type the numbers. Once he pressed the final one, the screen lit up with the home screen. Plagg cackled.
Hey, I did it.
Adrien glared. Yeah, but I knew the password. Plagg rolled his eyes and turned to him.
What was that, by the way?
Adrien gave a sad smile. It's the day my mom died. Plagg looked back at Adrien, then down to the screen.
Well, that's just depressing.
Plagg muttered.
Okay, so what are we looking for?
Let's flip back to the day my dad left. We can look at the security footage, Adrien said. Plagg opened the security app and scrolled until they reached the last active recording. Plagg opened the video. The date was February 23rd at 4 p.m., just around the time Ladybug and Noir would have been the sewers on the day it all happened. The security camera was positioned so he could see the painting of his mother. His father, Gabriel, was standing in front of the pedestal, actively working on a design. Adrien's eyes darted around the screen to look for any clues. Only seconds later, the door opened and a lady walked in. Gabriel had dropped his stylus and it fell with a few taps. Adrien was trying to see her face, but she was facing away from the camera.
Gabriel,
The lady had said, slowly pushing the door closed.
it's about time we finally met. Who are you? How'd you get in my house?
Gabriel asked with confusion and concern.
Oh, well, we'll discuss about that later. I have other things to discuss with you.
The lady said, taking a small step towards Gabriel. Gabriel looked at her with anger.
Get out of my house, or I will call my security and have them do it for you.
She laughed.
That won't be necessary. They're all preoccupied with something.
Gabriel took steps backward, trying to put as much distance between him and the mysterious woman.
Do I know you?
He asked. Adrien could hear the smile on her voice.
No, but soon everyone will know who we are.
She took more steps towards Gabriel. Gabriel took more steps away from her.
I don't understand. Who are you?
She stepped closer to the pedestal.
You'll figure it out. Soon enough.
The audio then cut out as the woman walked closer to Gabriel. He put his hands out, trying to keep his distance from her. Her shoulders moved as if she was laughing. When her shoulders stopped moving, Gabriel's face dropped, but then was full of fear. Just as the woman was about to reach him, the video cut off. Adrien started the video in shock. He recognized that voice. It was her, the woman from the tower. That was the lady from... What did my father have to do with her? Adrien pondered, fear striking his voice. Plagg simply shrugged.
I don't know, but something seems very fishy.
Within the next few minutes, Adrien was retreating back to the safety of his own room, his thoughts moving at lightning speed. Why did she visit my dad? Did they take him? What was my father working with them? Where's my father now? It was endless, and Adrien couldn't stop it. He sat on his bed, head in his hands. He stared at the floor, his eyes full of confusion and fear.
Hey kid, listen to me.
Plagg started, but the rest went through one ear and out the other. What should he do? There was now the possibility that his father was a part of this. Even the thought shook Adrien to his core. Was he somehow working with Lila and Ollie and the lady? But no, the look on his face when the lady got close to him. He was scared. He didn't know who she was. Adrien stayed in his room, staring at the wall, trying to process everything that was going on. Plagg sat on the couch, cruising through channels again, but every now and then, Adrien was able to see the big green orbs of his eyes turn to check on him. The hours passed as the sun set, leaving Adrien's room dark. He didn't bother to turn on any lights and just let himself spiral. At first, he was focusing on his father in the video, but then his mind started to wander. What else was his father hiding from him? Adrien remembered the book behind the painting of his mother he found a while ago. He then found out it was the grimoire. A sinking feeling built in his stomach. Was his father truly a villain? He thought about his father, always disapproving of his every move, not just with school, but his choice of friends. He remembered how angry he sounded as he yelled at Adrien.
I don't want Nino near you.
Gabriel demanded. Why? I don't understand. Adrien asked in return.
You don't have to understand. You just have to listen. I am your father.
Gabriel said, then retreated back to his office. Adrien grabbed the handle and tried to pull the door open, but it was locked. Father, please! Adrien exclaimed. It was like that with every argument. Gabriel disapproving and then Adrien attempting to reason with no avail. With Nino first, and then Marinette.
You seem close with that Dupin Chang girl.
Gabriel had stated. Adrien smiled. She's just a friend. Gabriel had nodded.
Good. I don't want our families being associated with theirs.
Adrien furrowed his brow. What does that mean? Gabriel shook his head and walked towards his office door.
It doesn't matter.
Then he opened the door and walked inside. Adrien reached for the handle to try and open the door, but it was locked. Back in his room, Adrien stared at the floor, reliving the memories. Through the darkness, he saw the picture frame of him, his mother, and father. Going through the bad memories, he remembered the night his mother had slipped away from life. He was 13 years old when it happened. His mother had already been sick for a while.
Keep Adrien in his room!
Gabriel yelled at Nathalie before retreating back to his office. Nathalie had disregarded his order and followed him in. Adrien, out of curiosity, went down the stairs and peeked into the office through the crack between the doors. The sight was unsettling. Adrien's mom laid on the floor, still, unmoving, lifeless.
Come on, Emilie! Don't give up on me now! Come on!
Gabriel yelled, pushing down on her chest with both hands. Tears ran down Nathalie's face, her phone up to her ear, hopefully calling for help. Gabriel leaned his mouth down to hers and blew 3 breaths of oxygen.
Come on, Emilie! We were so close! We were almost there! Please!
Adrien watched through the door, still as a statue and mouth open. He was watching his mother die. A few seconds later, red and blue light illuminated the grand staircase of the house. Adrien ran back up the stairs, locking himself in his bedroom. He heard the front door burst open. He heard footsteps race towards the office. Adrien quietly walked out the door, sitting behind the pillar so that he could still see everything without being seen. He watched as the lights on the ambulance turned off. He heard his father scream, and that could only mean one thing. His mom was gone. He watched her die. He watched his dad try and save her. He watched as Gabriel broke down and the news of her not making it. A tear slipped out of Adrien's eye silently. Plagg was still watching whatever mind-numbing show was on, and Adrien felt his face hot. What was he supposed to do with what he figured out? He didn't know his father was connected to it all, or even why. He hadn't even noticed he hadn't checked on Marinette. Maybe if he told her about his father without saying he was his father, she'd understand how he was connected to it all. Maybe he was the missing link. But what if he was? That would mean he was someone. Adrien didn't want him to be. He laid on top of the covers, not bothering to go underneath. He laid on his side and stared at the picture on his desk of him, Emilie, and Gabriel again. Back when everything was normal. Back when everything was good. He couldn't imagine his entire life to be a lie, for everything he thought he knew to be wrong. Marinette would know what to say. So he picked himself up and announced that he was going to Marinette's, even if she was asleep. He could find some comfort in her, and considering she was home alone, they didn't have to worry about her parents coming up to find him in her room. Noir jumped over the roof towards her house. Hopeful, he landed on her roof with a barely unnoticeable thud. Though, with every step he took toward the hatch in her room, there seemed to be a loud thud or two coming from inside. He peered into the window and noticed some of her plushies and blankets were missing. With caution, he opened the hatch and stepped into her bed. "Marinette?" Noir asked softly. There was another crash down the stairs. He looked off the railing to find her hysterically throwing things to the floor. There were pencils, clothes, pieces of wood, and glass littering the floor. It was a mess. Tikki flew up to Marinette's ear.
Marinette, stop it!
She yelled. Marinette just cried and laughed.
Why, Tikki? Alia left me, she lied to me, she used me.
Marinette said before throwing another picture frame with a picture of her and Alia down to the floor. Jesus, Marinette, stop it! Noir said, jumping down and grabbing her hands.
Stop it, Shot. It doesn't matter.
She said, looking up at him, her eyes foggy. Noir flinched when she talked towards him. What the hell is wrong with you right now?
Nothing, I'm perfectly fine.
She said and took a sip from her water bottle. Noir just stared. No, you're not. Something is obviously wrong.
Jesus, everything is fine, Chat.
She said, trying to take a sip of her water mid-sentence. She failed miserably and over half of her sip landed on the floor. Mari, Shat said while grabbing some tissues from her desk to clean up the spill. He cleaned it up, but the smell of the water didn't go unnoticed by Shat. Have you been drinking? He asked her, the smell of alcohol lingering on the tissues. Her eyes widened. Shat reached for her water bottle and smelled it. What the fuck, Marinette? What the hell did you put in this?
It's nothing.
It's not nothing. You're drinking and you lied to me about it. Noir screamed.
I never lied to you about anything you never asked.
Marinette yelled back. That's not the fucking point, Marinette. Why the hell are you drinking?
I fucking miss her, okay? I miss Aya so fucking much and I don't know what to do.
Marinette cried, falling to the floor. Shat's anger slightly fizzled away. I know that, but there are other things you can do besides drinking. Marinette just sat on the floor and cried.
I just want to know what happened to her.
He leaned down and stroked her back. I know, love.
It's been a month and I haven't found anything. What if I never do?
She asked. We will, he said, trying to convince her, but it didn't seem to be doing much. She was losing hope, and there was nothing he could do to convince her otherwise. Any thoughts of telling her about his father withered. He couldn't spring this onto her now. She already had enough on her plate to worry about. He couldn't add another lead that might not even be true. Perhaps his father was just caught in the crossfire of it all. Giving Marinette false hope was not what he intended to do. So he didn't tell her. Not about his father, not about the video, not about his abandonment. He just let it go, despite it gnawing at him every night. Even if he wanted to tell her, he was too far gone into his life and too long to bring it up. So he could stay by Marinette's side whenever he could. He helped her cope with her loss and urged her to stop whatever bad habits she picked up in their time alone. But most of all, he stopped searching for his father, because at this point, he couldn't bear the truth. Noir started to come over earlier to Marinette's house. Night visits changed into afternoon and lasted well into the night. At least, most nights it did. Except the night of the Zoom call in class with Ollie and Lila. Then the late night visit turned into a sleepover. A risky, blindfolded, detransformed sleepover. Adrien was awoken by the soft voice of Marinette.
Sha?
She started. When he came to, he quickly put his hands over her eyes, realizing he wasn't Shat, but Adrien. Marinette squealed, and he felt her close her eyes under his hand. Then she replaced his hands with hers. Sorry, Adrien apologized. Plagg, wake up.
No, I'm sorry. I forgot about the blindfold.
Marinette said. He watched as one of her hands felt the fabric around her neck. It's fine. It was a risky plan anyway. Plagg, wake up. Adrien harassed the Kwame, who was asleep on one of Marinette's plushies.
What?
Plagg hissed, still delirious from sleep. I have to transform, Plagg. The boy continued.
Without breakfast?
Adrien heard Marinette chuckle at Plagg's response. Sorry, Plagg, I'll get you some later, but right now I really need to transform, Adrien begged.
Fine.
Plagg yawned.
Hold my hat, though.
Adrien shook his head and grabbed the hat, then uttered the words to transform into his alter ego. Okay, it's safe now. Marinette opened her eyes to see Noir and she smiled. Below them, the knocking sound they'd awoken to became more frantic. Marinette and Noir stood in confusion at the hat on the floor.
Did you hear that?
She asked Noir. It sounds like it's coming from downstairs. He replied after a few seconds. The knock was now louder and sounded almost urgent. It was still muffled and Marinette opened the hatch, sliding down the stairs. Noir followed behind her but hidden from view of anyone who peered through the door. Marinette turned the lock and glanced at Noir. He nodded and she turned the handle. In front of her stood Nino. He wore jeans and a red t-shirt, his hands tucked away in the front pockets of his jeans and his cap hid his face as he looked down. When he looked up, Marinette could see his eyes were stained with the remnants of tears.
Nino?
She asked.
Look, I know I shouldn't be here, but I don't know where to go. I've gone to the police, Adrien isn't answering his phone, I've tried so many things.
He held his head in his hands.
I know something's really wrong with Alia, and I think she might be in trouble.
Okay, that was a lot to unpack, and we knew that when we were writing it. So here, I'm going to break down this chapter, just in case some things flew over your head when listening. First off, this chapter has a lot of flashbacks, so I'm going to clear up the timeline. Chapter 1, Alia. was placed 2 months after chapter 26 of the first season, and for the beginning portion of this chapter, it's placed a few days after chapter 26. From there, we go a few days into the week, seeing aspects of Adrien's personal life coping with it all. There's another time skip about a week or two later, and Adrien finds out all of those things about his father that maybe he wasn't supposed to find. Then there's about 3 different flashbacks of conversations between Adrien and his father, and ultimately remembering the night his mother died. Yeah, that's quite depressing. Anyway, after that, Adrien visits Marinette the same night, placing us a month after chapter 26. Finally, with one final time skip, we're now in the morning after chapter 1's risky blindfold girly pop sleepover. So yeah, that's a bit confusing. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them, without revealing too much, of course. This chapter sets the stage for everything to come, so be sure to come back in 2 weeks for the next chapter, chapter 3, the birthday. But of course, this wouldn't be a complete episode without bloopers.
Before we start this chapter, there's also a trigger warning. This chapter includes slight, yeah.
What the heck did I miss?
A lot, I think. This is like the first time you're reading the chapter.
Wait, who is it?
Gabriel. Sorry.
It's Gabriel? What the frick did he use? Freaking morphine over here.
Oh, not Mr. Grest.
The mom?
What?
What?
There was a whole leak of drama. The physical. Yep. Okay. It was as if they disappeared off their face. It was as if. I fucking hate talking. Hey, Mari, I'm so sorry that you watched your best friend die and you weren't able to save her. Yeah, no, that's not happening. So he simply just watched it. Fuck off. Nathalie, can you help me with this? I don't understand. 13-year-old Adrien had asked his. That's nope, I stuttered. Why did I keep going?
That's my line? Who says that?
Nathalie?
Hi, baby, come here. Let's figure out this chemistry.
Oh, shit, that's me!
Wait, what the heck? She said with confidence.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
Agent Nest just spawned.
Adrien, you've done your scooting.
Scooting. I'm so bored. I'd rather learn something than do nothing in my room until my photo shoot.
That line's driving me crazy after what I said earlier. I'll teach you chemistry when you're older.
It's like, I'll teach you chemistry when you're older.
Your father is on a work trip. He'll be unattainable for an unforeseeable. Okay.
January.
It's recording. January. Wait, that's my line. Oh. Is she gonna die? Stop.
No.
Oh. Me and I know where
Where'd
this
you get that
chapter.
from?
This is not Wonderland.
Nice better Saturn, floating away.
Line.
I don't want you to see Adrien. I mean, I can't. Okay. Can't really explain it. I haven't got the
words.
Come on, Emilie! Don't give up on me now! Come on! Was that
Gabriel
okay?
yelled.
Yes.
That was really good, yeah. Gabriel. I love the retreat from that. It's the yelling. Is that okay?
I'm me. Oh, should I like take a pause every comma? Like if I was doing the 3 breaths?
Shit, yeah.
Okay.
I was not thinking
Long
about that,
pause.
but sure, do it.
Okay. Come on, but whoa. Slow down. Okay. Come on, Emilie. We're so close. Almost there.
Please. Oh, no.
This is not my fault. Do you want me to say it in one fluid motion instead?
Yeah. I'm literally crying.
Yeah! Yeah!
Okay, stop this fucking hour and 21-minute recording.
Mine was only like 13.
Let me stop the recording on Zoom.